Hello and welcome to Apex Racing TV and our coverage of the iRacing Next Level Racing Sim Racers Asia iRacing GT3 series. We're here at the Circuit of the Americas tonight for round 10 of this championship. Only a couple more rounds to go after this one as we head into the twilight of the championship. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside me is Dane Baird, Marco Barbanera operating the production side of things tonight. And Dane, this is really where the championship is going to start to come to a close. We've got a few drivers who have still got a chance at the overall title, and some pretty nice prizes as well are at stake, along with a lot of pride, I am sure. So this is the part of the season, to use a kind of football terminology. It doesn't matter about the performance, purely matters about the result.
Absolutely, the final chance for the drivers to get some points on the board before the end of the season. And interesting at the in the championship standings actually, because Gallon, who we've seen dominating basically every single race that he's entered, he's only in third in the championship, and doesn't look like he's joining us here for the finale, which is it's interesting. He's literally finished first in every single of the 6 races that he's done except for one, where he finished second in round 6, I believe that was at Road America. But yeah, he's not joining us today, so opportunity for a couple of the drivers behind him in the championship standings, like Fanat, who's currently on pole position, also Tai Kim, who we're looking at right now to try and maybe jump in the standings and grab one of those top 3 spots, leading the championship with 248 points and looking good for the championship is Sebastian Tixier, who is third in qualifying at the moment, and then Kevin Huang, who's second in qualifying, is also second in the championship, only 2 points behind Sebastian. So it's a bit of a title challenge that we've got here today. It's going to be tight, I think, at the front, because yeah, all 3 of the drivers at the front of qualifying are the 3 drivers battling for the championship.
Yeah, Fanat will need to have something pretty bad go for the top 2 in the championship tonight. It is possible. We've got 15 cars out here for the final meeting of the season, and so yeah, potential for those drivers to lose quite a few points. Here is Tai Kim, currently 5th place in the championship. He has got a mathematical chance, but it's extremely unlikely. In fact, I think it might be mathematically impossible for Kim to bring back the points, but I'm sure he'd like to end the season well. He does do a decent lap at the end of qualifying, but it's not enough to improve his position on the grid. And yeah, we've just got a few more drivers who are able to complete their laps. I think this one will be the last one, in fact, for Pairat Chukan Toy. But he decides to opt into the pits, was not going to prove on that last lap. And the session should be advancing very soon before we start to grid up on the dummy grid, go through the final sector, and of course then launch for this race. I wouldn't want really to have this as a championship decider, honestly, Dane, because this is, I find at least, probably the most tricky track in iRacing. Honestly, I think it's up there with Belle Isle in terms of its difficulty with the wide corner entries, particularly on a single monitor. It's very tricky, and so it's quite a test for the championship contenders to decide the title.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite a few of the corners in the middle sector. You've got the long straight, and on either end of those, 2 terrible hairpins that, if you're on a single monitor, good luck finding the apex of those, because it's pretty much impossible with how much the track widens out just before turn-in. Luckily, I've got 3 monitors now, so this track is slightly easier than it used to be for me, but the S's are still terrible. They're fun to drive, but if you get them ever so slightly wrong by inches, you've got those massive orange curves built into the circuit. They only lasted about a year in the real world. They took them away because they launch cars into the air, and here on iRacing, if you hit one of those, well, you can basically kiss your race goodbye, because yeah, it's going to give you a lot of damage as we have the grid up on the screen and the driver's starting to get ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see around the circuits, iRacing have updated the runoff areas, which obviously we massively thank them for, because, you know, updating the runoff areas, I'd much rather they did that than update the curbs to, you know, curbs which are barely relevant to nowadays. So massive thanks to iRacing on that front, really getting the priority straight. It has been out then on pole position, Huang, Texera, Hong Sawet, Chuken Toy, Park, Sanchez, Gandor, Kim, Aaron Mitz, Lam, Paolo, Leon, Al, Chan, Jackson, and Kai, rounding out the 17 cars. And yeah, the Porsche pace car about to get these drivers away. Interestingly, a McLaren front row, which is something you don't see too often. I doubt the McLaren has a particularly big advantage around here. Usually very good down the straights as the McLaren, at least in the past. But I think that's down to Bernard and Huang driving incredibly well, to be fair. Remember, if Teixeira beats Huang tonight, he will be the champion, and he'll also win a very nice prize, which is on offer for the drivers, because of course Next Level Racing are sponsoring this series, and they will be providing an F-GT rig to the overall series champion, and there's also a GT-Lite rig as well, which is available to a random participant of the series. Everyone is eligible for that one, so massive thanks for Next Level Racing for offering such an awesome prize for these drivers.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, Sam, you say everyone's eligible. We're not eligible, unfortunately.
Well, the drivers are eligible.
Sad times. We give just as much as the drivers to this series, I think, but we're not eligible for that prize, unfortunately. Have to have a word with Weihan about that one. But yep, coming around the final couple of corners now, is one of the Mercedes drivers in the middle of the pack has just gone off the circuit in a bit of a weird place. I'm not too sure what's happened there. Something's obviously happened outside of the sim for that to happen, but yep, field now in control of Fanat. We're about to get racing.
Yep, Fanat goes very early, gets a huge jump on the rest of the field, and Huang managing to hold on into second place, but Fanat's not going to have to worry about defending into the very tight first corner we have at this circuit. A little bit of a tricky start there for Teixeira, who's trying to go defensive against Chicken Toy, who has already gained a place off the start, still going alongside, but crucially Teixeira does get through that first corner clean, and he'll try to set on the hunt for his championship rival Huang just ahead. But it's Fanat leading the way, spin off in the background. It's Park, and he's going to reach the barriers there. Doesn't seem to really be deploying the brakes whatsoever, and he has crunched into that barrier and will need to use one of his fast repairs, I imagine.
Yep, almost on the grass on the inside, trying to get out of everybody's way as he rejoined the circuit. Bit of an awkward place to try and rejoin there, right as on the inside of that fairly fast right hand. Oh, over one of the curbs is the number 14, and yeah, gonna have some damage from that as well. You can see letting the Lamborghini come past now. You can see loads of drivers running wide on this opening lap. Track limits are going to be crucial here because drivers do have penalties that they can get if they exceed a certain number of incident points, and you get an incident point every time you run off the circuit. And I've seen at least 4 or 5 drivers running off the circuit multiple times so far in the opening lap, so they've got to be careful. It's a fairly long race, 40 minutes, so you've got to watch out for that because yeah, you really don't want to be getting one of those penalties.
Exactly. So if the race ended now, we would have a tie for the championship leads. Teixeira and Huang would both have the same number of points. Not quite sure what the tiebreaker is. I assume it is race wins, of which neither have won a race so far this season. So I guess it goes back to second places in that occasion, and Teixeira currently has 2 to his name. Huang currently has 1, but obviously he's currently running in second place at the moment, so that would be 2 again. So we go back to third position finishes, and in terms of that category, Teixeira has none, whilst Huang does have an advantage because he has got 2. So, I believe at the moment, Dane, and feel free to correct me on this one because I may have missed something quite obvious. I believe Huang is currently in championship winning position.
Well, like you said, we have no idea what the tiebreaker is, if there even is a tiebreaker. Maybe they just give them both the championship win. We don't know. But yeah, if that is the case, then your math is correct for once, Sam. And Huang, it looks like he's in a pretty good position as it stands now. Of course, he'll want to end the season on a high anyway, try and get the win. Again, running off the circuit on the outside there. You've really got to watch out because you've seen it way too many times. just casting back to the ARL GT4 series. The final round of that series before it was axed for the next season and replaced by the GT Trophy. We had 10 cars on the final grid at COTA, and I think 6 of them got a drive-through penalty for incident points. So it's something that happens very often here at COTA, and especially at the front, could be disastrous for someone like Kwang. If he runs off the circuit every lap, he'll end up getting a penalty, dropping down and handing the championship lead to the driver behind him of TCS. So it's if they really have to watch out for it, and it doesn't look like they have been over the first couple of laps. It's something that they'll have to be careful with. But yeah, it looks like we've only had 3 winners in the series so far. You're talking about neither of the top 2 having a win to their name. Gallon's won 5 of the 9 races so far. 3 were taken by Sachin Nathakunjon, who's of course also not joining us here for the final round. He took 3 wins, and the last remaining win was Fanat, who is leading the pack and extending his advantage a little bit. Oh! Someone's just run off there. I think that's Kai down in 15th in the Ferrari. He's just taken the IndyCar line at the penultimate corner.
Yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't a slowdown, but maybe there isn't a slowdown. Pretty sure there is a slowdown at some point there, but maybe you need to go even wider than that in order to pick it up. Certainly will pick up a 1x as you were saying before. Yeah, will be a problem there. So you're on board with 6-0, trying to make that championship winning move, but despite the fact that this is still a sprint really, as Sanchez has got past in an odd place on the circuit. It's always like a move to see through the S's, as Gandour felt like there was an opportunity for himself as well. These 4 now really slowing each other up. Kim is going to be forced to the outside. He can go pretty wide into this corner, fairly easy. It's super wide. Gandour did well to defend Kim, though he is the loser out there. Kind of just caught up to the car ahead in the wrong place, as there's a spin and a crash in the background. That is, oh no, that's damage for Leon. I think he's going to have to tow back to the pits because, or at least pick up his faster pair, because that steering seems to be gone, and that was contact with Paolo.
Looks like a bit of netcode, at least on my screen. But yeah, the Audi Paolo just losing the rear end out of the hairpin, maybe touching the AstroTurf or the grass on the outside and just looping it around. Managed to catch it, but that swinging motion from the rear of the car as he caught the car, I think what happened was iRacing thought, oh, he's going to slam into the back of the McLaren driver, and unfortunately he saved it, but unfortunately the netcode system thought he wasn't going to be able to. So yeah, a lot of damage to the rear of the McLaren, I think there, and there might have just been something else that's happened now, because Leong and Ao are dropping down the order. Oh, is he on his side?
That was a weird angle, wasn't it?
That was a really weird angle. What's happened here?
So he's already got damage, and then he spins round, and then yep, that Lambo is a little bit of a plough, and then that is that's part balance for you. The gymnastics coming up later on in the year, and Goodson could well do with a gymnast of that quality. That was superb. Lamb is spinning round now, and Lamb was in 9th position, I believe. It's down into 11th. Really, most drivers have had a problem. These really the top 5 have got through all right so far, and these top 3 really sprinting away from the rest.
Yep, and Huang's still holding on to that 2nd place, which should, in theory, secure him the championship. But he has got TCS holding on about 6/10 behind. The 3 of them separated by 6/10 each. Fanat not quite able to extend the gap as much as he would like. I think the draft down the back straight is really hindering him in that regard. He can't quite make the gap through the S's. But ooh, bit of a lunge there from Huang. He's gained about 0.2 of a second into the hairpin at the end of the straight, and he's now right on the back of his co-McLaren pilot of Fanat, who is coming under a little bit of pressure now. He's also got Tixier in the Mercedes behind, who's keeping with them, running off the circuit again. But that could be a little bit interesting in a few moments' time. Huang's dropped back a little bit now, but yeah, it doesn't look like Fanat's going anywhere in comparison to the two drivers behind. We're going to see these three together for a while, I think.
You see some of the very tasteful sponsorship on the side of the COTA circuit, as added last month, I believe. Yeah, for that gap between the top two has kind of been ebbing and flowing. It seems like Bernard was within, you know, half a second, but then just at the end of that lap, losing a little bit of time again. Draft effect in these GT3 cars not too strong. That is just maybe parts of the circuit where one driver has the advantage of the over the other. Such a varying circuit, really ultimate Tilka circuit. At least I think of this place. You know, you got the S's here, you got the long straights, and you got the tight twisty corners. So many different sections of the circuit where one driver may favour over the other. Certainly on this lap, Huang just bringing that gap down ever so slightly. You can see that gap going up and down, up and down. So you kind of take different lines through the S's, maybe taking a bit more pace into one, but having a little bit less pace into the next. As we see another issue here for Ryan Lamb. So he had a spin at turn 1, and he's now had a very common mistake through the penultimate corner, and yeah, that's 2x for him, but more importantly, that's a bunch of places lost, and he's also towed back to the pit, so that might be the end of his day.
Yeah, he lost the car before turning. As he hit the brakes there, the car stepped out on him, and he carried that throughout the entirety of that penultimate corner, and then eventually on the exit it just looped around on him, and trying to swing the car into the S's a little bit too harshly was Timothy there, and he's swung the car right around in the middle of the S's. The S's go on forever here. I think it's like nine apexes, 9 different corners make up the S's. There's a lot of them, all very different as well, and it just basically tightens up as you go further and further along, trying to carry as much speed as possible, and that's quite a common mistake, just to try and fling the car in with as much force as possible, and just doing it a little bit too hard, and yeah, just looping it around. But he has just made up a position on Wei-Han Chan. In fact, they're going side by side, at least they were for a moment, and he's just settled for 12th. He can't quite make it past Wei-Han at this time. Park is out of the race. I wonder what's happened to the Audi driver.
Yeah, mistake from him. And yeah, we are losing several drivers at the moment from this event. There is Jackson. He was eventually able to make that move on Wei-Han, who lost quite a bit of time on that last lap. 2 minute 8.5. This lap 2 minute 8.9. There was a worse lap for Jackson. He lost 2 minute 15, which is about 12 seconds off the pace. So although that's just that's a personal best, because that's his first clean lap of the race for Jackson. So he lost 10 seconds with a mistake, but still his fastest lap, because only lap which he hasn't gone the circuit, which is weird because he made a mistake, so he must have had like a half spin or something and not picked up any instance. Very weird, but there you go. He is up into 10th position once again. Wei-Han quite a few places up from his start, 4 places from his start so far. By the way, quick shout out to a few of the sponsors and the people who help out this series. Macau-China Sim Racing Association, also SimR Garage for powering the series, and also Sim Racing Association, SG, for the sanctioning of the series, and also Motorsports Singapore for supporting Sim Racers Asia, which has been in existence for over 10 years now, which is absolutely awesome. Still playing on fantastic leagues such as this. It's been a terrific season. We've been able to bring you most of the broadcasts on Apex Racing TV. It's a fitting way to end the championship with an absolute nail-biter of a season's close. But yeah, thanks to all those associations for helping out the championship this season.
Yep, without them, none of this would be possible. Sim Racers Asia definitely wouldn't be here after 10 years, which is really insane to think about, considering how I guess you could say new sim racing is, in terms of people taking it pretty seriously and in the numbers that they do, and yeah, they've managed to be around for longer than I knew sim racing existed. So props to them, and still going strong, as you can see with the pretty huge grid of drivers. Not maybe for this event, but for most of the season, we've had quite a large grid of drivers for this, and also their league over on, I believe they have one on Assetto Corsa. They have one that's also GT3s, of course, but over on a different platform, as a couple drivers into the pits, all of them taking repairs. Jackson just taking a pit stop. I think it's probably just about now the pit window opens, so that's probably a scheduled pit stop. He's just taken a pit stop early, maybe taking a fast repair as well, considering he did hit one of the curbs, I believe, earlier on. So maybe just taking a fast repair, taking a pit stop early, and filling up the tank and going to the end now.
Yeah, I imagine that's his thinking. Otherwise, yeah, you would have gone an extra couple of laps to get into the window. So surely, yeah, it must be within the window by now. By the way, I've just looked at the incidents before you get a drive-through penalty. It's 14, really small. That's even smaller than the official series, which is already quite limiting. And unfortunately, we don't have really a very good idea in the commentary box. We have our own system provided by SDK Gaming, which kind of roughly estimates it, but it's not particularly accurate, because iRacing has its own system. It's not necessarily defined by the white lines. It's defined by kind of what iRacing see as like an advantage that wouldn't be permitted in real life. So you've got, for example, Watkins Glen, you can go way off the circuit at turn 1, but which might be picked up as a 1x on our system, but not on the iRacing system. So we're not quite sure, basically, but at least from eyeballing this race so far, surely many drivers will be in trouble by the end of this race. But so far, at least, no drive-throughs we have seen for these drivers, as Gandor is catching up to Sanchez. He was 1 second faster than the driver ahead on that last lap, and also a bit faster than Toy as well, in 4th place. If you can get past nice and quickly, Gandor, you might have a chance at 4th position, as there's a little bit of a tap between the two.
Yeah, a little bit of a tap, and he's going to go to the outside now. Probably try and get the cut back. I don't think he's going to try and hold it around the outside. He does go for the switchback now, and gets possibly a slightly better exit, but you have to use all of the draft that he can find down this long back straight, slightly curving to the right. The next corner is, of course, the left-hander. Pull to the right-hand side of the screen, but won't be able to try and make a move into the braking zone. And they've got to watch out for Kim just behind as well. Only a second back from these in the Mercedes. And what has happened here? Oh dear, it's Wei Han Chan in the 14. What has happened? Maybe hitting one of the curbs through. Oh yes, there it is. Smacking one of the curbs in the S's, finds the Tech Pro barrier, and possibly going to have to make his way down to the pits pretty soon, because yeah, that car looks like it could be pretty damaged indeed. Huang's just run a bit wide out of the final corner. This could give Tixier an opportunity down to turn 1.
This is absolutely pivotal. They've dropped off the back of Finat. This is for the championship potentially. Huang going defensive. He's very tight into the corner, and Tixier will do well to spot where to turn in now. And side by side down into turn 2. But once you get into this part of the track, you do just have to stay behind. That's as close as Tixier has come to a move. We've still got over half the race to go. The pit stops will be absolutely pivotal as well. Wow, you know, so call your winner right now, because it really is 50-50 between those drivers. Finat pulling away. Remember, Finat also has a mathematical chance, but he needs his 2 rivals to really be finishing outside the top 10 tonight in order to make up enough points in the championship. So it's unlikely that he will play a part in this one, but doing all he can in the lead. As still, Sanchez is doing an awesome job of holding back Gandor, but it seems to me, at least, judging by that last lap, it seems like Gandor was really struggling down the straights, Danny. He was barely gaining down the in the slipstream.
Yeah, probably gaining all of his time in the corners. Through the final sector here and through the first sector with the S's, and obviously this tight and twisty stadium section, which is brilliant for switchback moves out of that hairpin off the back straight, and then into the Istanbul turn 8 style corner, the triple apex right-hander, maybe even 4 apexes on this corner. I actually can't remember which one it is, but there's a lot of them around the viewing tower. As Huang gets a little bit loose there, and look how close Xia is, going to the inside into the final corner, but both of them unable to, both of them taking the tightest line possible there. Xia tried to go to the inside, Huang shut the door as firmly as possible, but now look how close they are heading into turn 1. Maybe we're going to see the same thing that we saw last time. Bike will swing to the outside, try and get the switch back. I think it might work a bit better this time.
It's going to be a shorter run for Huang, who is able to pull his car back ahead. But they're still they make contact with the 2 championship contenders. Teixeira gets through, and Huang is hard into the wall. He'll get that car back to pit lane and pick up the faster pair. It will have to be an early pit stop, but Teixeira is the one who gets through, and at the moment would become the champion. But this leaves a lot of ambiguity post-race.
Yeah, it looks like there was a bit of netcode involved, but he was definitely making contact regardless of it, and yeah, I'm not sure. Huang looked like he just tried to hold the middle of the circuit, try and make life a little bit more difficult for the Mercedes driver. Mercedes driver trying to move to the middle of the circuit to get the best time possible through the S's, and they came together. But if I had to put blame on it, probably give it to Teixeira, but that's going to be an interesting one for the stewards to handle after the race, so it doesn't look like we're going to know who is the champion after this race, because that could possibly go either way, and depending on the penalty that either driver might get, that could change things up a bit. Wei Yan Chan in the Ferrari without the front of his car, so I'm not sure if that's because of a new incident or if that's from earlier when we saw him hit the barriers in this part of the circuit, but not a happy looking Ferrari, is it?
No, I don't know why he hasn't picked up his faster pace within the pit window. Obviously, half an hour these cars can go on a tank, because it's about half fuel tank capacity, and these cars can usually go about an hour around kind of the average circuit. So as long as you pit after the 10-minute mark, you can get to the end. As Huang comes into the pit as expected. Of course, he had that hard hit into the S's. I mean, he could still get this one done on circuit, could Huang? He could still be able to catch up to Teixeira, but it's unlikely, especially seeing that Teixeira did look like the faster driver before they made contact. Meanwhile, Gandor is finally past Sanchez. He's got the move done into turn 1, and after running in 5th place for a while, the 3rd position is looking very possible, because I think both of these drivers were able to jump Huang when he had his incident, and Gandor already really showing his pace advantage by sprinting away through the S's.
Yeah, Dirtier not going to help out too much, runs off the circuit, picks up another 1x possibly, and yeah, down the back straight we'll see if it really is a straight line speed disadvantage that he had, because right now he's got 5/10 over Sanchez as they make their way over onto the back straight, and now into the draft is Sanchez, and he is catching at quite a lot. Yeah, he's catching quite a bit. Looks like Gandor definitely has set the car up to better in the corners, and that might not help him out too much, because down the inside goes Sanchez, but he thinks better of it and just has to hold back for the time being. But yeah, I think you're definitely right, Sam. Gandor's car definitely looking better in the corners rather than on the straights, and Sanchez, I think, doing the exact opposite. He caught up loads on the straight, but lost equally as much through the S's.
Yeah, I mean, that was insane. The pace advantage, that was half a second gained down that straight. And you might see, I don't know, maybe I'm making things up here, but the rear wing on the Ferrari maybe looks a little bit slimmer than the one on the Mercedes. That does show up on iRacing. particularly prominent on the Formula 3.5 car, where you see quite a big difference. So that's the rear wing on Sanchez's car. Yeah, I mean, it might just be the angle, but I don't know about you, Dane. That rear wing looks bigger on Candor's car.
Might just be the Mercedes with rear wing is bigger, but
Could be, yeah.
we don't know. So it's Gandor into the pits. Still, the two drivers of Lam and K are into the pits, basically out of the race at this point with the damage that they picked up. Out Aaron Metz in the 83 in the sole BMW in the championship. This is currently the AM champion. Points leader in the AM class, and I believe leading the AMs in this race so far. I'm just going to go and double check that quickly. The only other AM drivers on the circuit at the moment is Glenn Paolo, who is definitely behind, Wyan Long, who is in 13th, and Thomas Ferry, which Thomas hasn't joined us for this round. So yeah, he's leading the AMS Championship and leading the AMS out on track, so he is looking to go nicely on his way to AM Championship.
Yeah, apologies that we haven't mentioned that already tonight, but no, that would be very impressive for Aaron Metz if he could achieve that one. And if it ended like this, I think he'd probably move up into about 8th place in the overall championship as well, which would be very impressive. So yeah, very good season put together by him, able to attend all of the races, which is absolutely terrific to see. Hong Sawet is catching up to Sanchez at the moment. The top 6 drivers, by the way, have not pitted so far in this race, and Bernard actually continuing for another lap. I guess the drivers should be able to go to close to half an hour. Usually kind of 26 to half an hour is where we see the drivers come in most of the time. It's a nice move there for Hong Sawet. So Sanchez struggling quite a bit now all of a sudden, Dane. I mean, I don't know, he was up there for a while. Of course, comes back with the terrific straight line speed in that Ferrari. But unless he can get past here, he's going to inevitably lose a lot of time through the S's. Yeah, Sanchez having a tough time of it at the moment. He's currently lapping about 2 seconds slower than the race leaders.
Yeah, not doing too well on this this first sector. As looking back at Weihan for a second, but yeah, not doing too well through the first sector. You can see he's losing time to Hong Sawet as well in the Audi. Taking pretty different lines. It might not be the car. I think it might just be the lines that he's taking to. The S's might be slightly slower than the lines that other drivers may be taking, but he definitely does seem to be struggling. That Lamborghini is handling a little bit weird. It looks like on my screen it might be crabbing a little bit through there, and quite a bit of damage to the rear left side of that car. It just looks like it's handling very loose through that section of the circuit, so maybe a bit of damage there for Ao, the only Lamborghini driver in the field. Sanchez not able to get past on the back straight either, so not going well for him.
Yeah, stay close here. I mean, that's always the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of easy for a viewer to say, oh, just stay close. You just need to stay within half a second, mate. But it is really tricky when you're running perhaps less downforce in order to do that. As Bernard does come into the pits, does Teixeira come into the pits? I think he stayed up for another lap, so Teixeira able to do that extra lap. Isn't a huge surprise because obviously Teixeira was stuck behind Huang for a while. So keep an eye on where Bernard, apologies, of course it doesn't really matter where Bernard comes out, doesn't it? It matters where Teixeira comes out, but Bernard is trundling down the pit lane. No, he's currently stationary. How long is he stationary for? 10.28. A little bit of a longer stop than the others. Maybe a second longer than the other drivers there, but Bernard still out in 5th position and comfortably ahead of the next place driver who has made a pit stop, which of course is Kevin Huang.
Yeah, that's a pretty big gap between the two of them. Of course, he did have the the crash, of course, so that would explain why. But Tixier now knows his pit stop is going to be coming pretty soon, because he's not going to want to risk Fanat coming back out too far in front, because of course he still wants to go for the win, does the Mercedes driver, so he'll want to try and catch up as much time as possible through the pit cycle. Doesn't look like Fanat's going to catch up to any traffic, so that's not going to be an issue for him. But yeah, it could be interesting stuff for the lead of this race. Huang probably not going to catch up that much time. It's what, 8 seconds that he's got to catch up by the end of the race with only 12 minutes left. It's not going to be particularly close. Looks like he's going to maybe have a bit of a battle to try and work out with Toy and maybe Sanchez and Gandor, if Gandor can catch up a bit as well, because Gandor's been looking pretty fast out there, especially through the last and first sectors. So in the last few minutes of the race, it could start to heat up a bit once all the drivers have made their pit stops.
I wonder if we could get a lap comparison thing between Tixier and Toei. Toei is now within 2 seconds, or was within 2 seconds before he ducked into the pits. So I'm not sure if that's some bad laps from him or what. But Huang Sweat also going into the pits, and Sanchez as well. So Tixier really being able to save a lot of fuel. Maybe that was his long-term plan when he pitted, when he was in third position earlier on. Maybe he was thinking that you know, he could save fuel, and that is how he could eventually get ahead of Huang. Of course, in the end, the contacts very much did that for himself anyway. Toy coming out of the pits. Now, how far behind is Huang? It'll be fairly close to Huang. You know what, this will give Huang quite a bit of hope, because the gap between third and fourth position is now 2.7 seconds. So, when Tixier comes into the pits, the gap should only be about 5 seconds. So remember, I think after the crash it was about 8 seconds. So it seems as though Huang has had some fairly good pace and has reduced the gap to Tixier, who of course is the man who he needs to beat to win the championship. So it's not all over yet. 10 minutes to go. Looks like Tixier is going to comfortably, apologies, Fanat's going to comfortably win this one, but the battle for second, third and fourth, it could come down to the wire.
I guess it all depends on how long Tixier's pit stop is. Of course, they've got to judge the amount of fuel that they take on board, and could quite easily overshoot the pit entry, which could be basically the worst case scenario for him if he had to do that. So yeah, definitely hope is not lost for Huang to try and get onto the podium. He's actually just caught right up to Toei now. There's only 2.5 seconds between the two of them. And there goes the race leader into the pits, probably going to come out in second, but we'll have to wait and see. It was pretty close to the pit entry line. We'll have to see how long his pit stop takes and where he's going to come out. Is he going to come out ahead of Toei and Huang? We'll have to find out in a moment.
He needs a pit stop of about, as long as it's below 12 seconds, he should be alright. You know, he had about 2 seconds over the rest, didn't he? This might be the shortest pit stop that we see all night, because it seems like he saved quite a bit of fuel in order to get to lap 15, as he is aware. Yeah, 8.87. That is a very quick pit stop for Tixier, and that gives him a very welcome buffer to Toei and Huang. The gap was 2 seconds between Tixier and Toei before the pit stop. It is now up to 5.5 seconds. So that was very important there. I was thinking that the gap between the championship contenders might be down to only about 3 or 4 seconds, but instead it's still at 7 seconds, and Tixier should be on course for the provisional title, at least we believe, as Sanchez with a huge slide right there. I think he came into the pits, in fact him and Mick came into the pits. Apologies, I am losing my marbles. These two came into the pits on the same lap, both lap 14, so a couple of minutes ago. And it is Sanchez who is ahead right now.
I think he just made a move into turn 1 and completely lost it, putting the power back down. Of course, once you're ahead into the S's, pretty easy to stay ahead in the S's. basically no way of the other driver making any sort of move on you. But down the straight, we know Sanchez's car is quick on the straights. Is he going to be able to keep ahead of the Audi just behind? There's only 5/10 separating them. We saw him gain 5/10 on Gandor a few laps ago. Let's see what can Hongswet do, and the gap is staying around about 5/10 of a second. So yeah, his car really quick in a straight line, which allows him to do well overtaking and also defending from other drivers, but it leaves him a bit vulnerable on the rest of the circuit.
Yeah, I think on balance, I can't imagine that that's a good setup to take, because he's so quick down the straights. I mean, when you're pulling away from drivers when they're in the drive heat, that really is showing it off. But yeah, this track has got a lot of corners around it. But of course, yeah, you're right. You know, in terms of easy to attack, easy to defend, does really help on that racecraft side of things. As Gandor is holding back Kim. Good pace from Kim actually recently. On that last lap he gained by 1/10.5. He was a little bit quicker on the lap before that as well. These two, I think, are running similar setups to one another. Gandor running a little bit wide. Still, it seems like no one has picked up a drive through so far in this race. Kim's got plenty of time to pull this one off. He is pretty much as close as you can get through the S's. Dirty Air will start
playing havoc with the downforce of his car through the S's, probably lose a small amount of time, but we do know that Gandor isn't the quickest down the straight, so we might see a bit of a difference in setup. So he's not got the best exit from the S's, but the exit out of this next left-hander is what's more important. You can see how the track dives to the left on that left side of the circuit, and really makes finding the apex tricky, which Kim looks like he's just misjudged slightly, and that's going to allow Gandor to escape and gain quite a bit of time before the draft starts taking effect. 6-7 tenths is the gap between them, which is probably not going to be nearly enough for Kim to make any sort of move down to the braking zone of this next left-hander. It does go pretty deep on the brakes though, and another one of these corners where it's really difficult to see where the apex is. Gandor losing the rear end slightly, and now into this section, which is really slow, but you definitely can pull off moves through here. It allows for a variety of different lines, and it looks like Kim just not able to catch up that gap at all. 4.5 minutes left. You'll have to try and make a move pretty soon, otherwise might run out of time. Yeah, we're gonna have we're just about going to fit in 3 more laps, aren't we? 2 more laps after this one. We'll only reach it by about, we'll only have about 20 seconds to spare when Bernat crosses the line for the penultimate time, but we will have, 20 laps in this race tonight, it seems. Hopefully all the drivers have fueled up appropriately in order to get to the end. Hopefully none of them will run out at the last moment. And of course, if anyone does dip into the pits, expect that not to be an emergency pit stop necessarily, but to probably be a drive-through penalty for incidents, which, once again, still drivers haven't picked many off. Gandor's actually been at the gym very well in this last lap. He is starting to pull away slightly. He managed to pull away by 4/10, but it was mainly a bad lap from Kim, honestly, compared to the previous lap times that he has achieved. Meanwhile, Huang is at the moment in championship winning position. He would lose the championship by 6 points if it ended like this. He really needed to beat 6-0 in order to clinch it. However, with that incident that happened heading out of turn 2 into the S's, it is in Huang's best interest to close that gap to 4 points if he can, and then if there's a 5-point penalty or something similar, then maybe he could clinch the championship for himself. So it's important that he gets past Toy here, and he has been quicker recently, half a second faster on lap 17 of the race, and that McLaren should have good straight line speed as long as he hasn't gone for anything wacky with his setup. He's a lot quicker, but as we've seen throughout tonight's day, this COTA circuit really is tricky to keep the back end in check. The track is very cool out there, so really this is maximum grip that you can get around this place, but it must just be the track surface, which
means that it's almost like an ice skating rink out there.
Yeah, it's not the grippiest of circuits at the best of times. The cold temperatures will help with that, but yeah, it's still not going to be the grippiest surface that the drivers could be racing on. Yeah, that gap started to increase slightly through the middle sector. I think Huang had a little bit of an issue with the rear end of his car not doing exactly what he wanted, but has caught on most of the all of the last laps. As Huang, he's been the fastest driver, but now can he actually get past with possibly only 2 opportunities left down that long straight? This lap and the next lap, which should be the last lap if Fanat reaches the line in time, which I think he should be able to do pretty safely. But yeah, this battle starting to heat up now. Huang will know that he needs to get as many points as possible to try and benefit from a potential penalty to be given to Sebastian, but it will definitely be interesting at the end of this race. Is Huang going to be quick enough to make that move? 4/10 of the gap as they enter the straight. What's it going to be at the end?
Yeah, they seem fairly even here. The gap coming down fairly quickly actually. It's down to 2/10. He looks to the inside. That's kind of half throttle on just so you can kind of drag it into the apex. That's certainly going to be a one it's picked up for Toei there. Huang runs a little bit deep and quite hesitant to get on the throttle. I thought he might be able to square it off and really get some good acceleration to this part of the track. But actually, he was structating, and then again, just constant kind of opposite lock just to keep the car in a straight line. Vastly different racing lines being taken through this part of the track. I think Huang, if you can nail your 4 corners in a row, you should have this one. It's just not quite getting the adhesion from the tyres in the track that he wants. But again, he's fairly close. Coming out of the final corner, about 3.5 is the gap. Around so many of these hairpins around this track, you can just go for the dive, and the opponent doesn't really have much of a choice about it. Can risk some contact, can risk a penalty perhaps, but it's always a possibility to go for it. And well, in the end, it was Huang who chose not to. We are on the final lap of the season then, and a little bit of curb being picked up there by Toei, and that's just held him up a little bit more. This is as close as Huang's been around this part of the circuit for the past few laps.
This part of the circuit going to be crucial now. Huang's actually got a pretty good exit. Toei runs wide, and now down into this left-hand hairpin. Is Huang going to try and make a move? Yes, he is, all the way to the inside, now to the outside. This is perfect for him. Going to have a much better exit. Maybe no, he's outbraked himself into the final corner, gets a bit loose, and that's Toei's gonna. Oh, he's got a bit of a gap now at 6/7 of a second, and Huang just unable to keep his composure, trying to go for the lunge down the inside, and realistically, he should have just backed out of that one. I think he did try to back out of it, but just not in time, and outbraked himself for the corner. Could have got a really good exit there because Toei's line was very compromised.
Yeah, really misjudged that one, and looks like his chances of a podium gone. Looks like his chances of the championship gone. Of course, it won't confirm anything on stream. We'll have to have clarification maybe a couple days after the race, see what the stewards' inquiries are. But we do know one thing for sure, that's at this final meeting of the season, to claim another race win, it will be Nicholas Fanat, who stutters across the line, ran out of fuel, but he just about had enough to reach the finish and take his 2nd win of the season. Tixera finishes in 2nd place, and we believe that is enough to take the championship provisionally. Again, won't confirm anything, but Tixera should have done all he needs to do in 2nd place. Toei does hold off Huang. Gandor did well to hold off Kim, and also Sanchez beat Hong Sawet. Some real good duels. Unfortunately, we weren't able to show all of them in the closing stages, but a lot happening throughout that 40-minute race. And it is out Aaron Mitz who confirms his amateur championship win. Congratulations to him, and like I said earlier on, a pretty decent finish as well in the overall title. So congratulations to Out on that superb achievement out there tonight. And of course, the amateur champion, we don't believe wins a prize. The pro champion does win a pretty nice prize for themselves. An F-GT rig provided by one of the sponsors for the series Next Level Racing. Of course, if you want to upgrade your rig yourself, do go over to Next Level Racing. They have some amazing rigs on offer, but they also cater to many different budgets. I think you can get maybe a cheaper rig for just a couple of £100, all the way up to pretty much the absolute best you can possibly get, which is a little bit more expensive, but massive thanks to them for offering such a cool prize to the drivers there. As Paolo crosses the line, I think may have blown his engine as well, just at the end there. But that was pretty close, to be honest, because Bernard actually ran out of fuel at the line, but he had a big enough gap to hold on.
Yeah, you could see him lifting throughout the final few corners as well. You knew it was a bit tight on fuel at that point. But yeah, he does take the win for the second time in the series. It means that we only had 3 winners throughout the season, and only one of them is on the grid, or was on the grid, for today's finale. And that is, of course, for not taking the win. Tixia, we think, is champion, but like Sam said, possible penalties involved for a bit of a shunt involving himself and his championship rival Kevin Huang, who finished down in 4th, just about couldn't get past Toei in 3rd, and then you got to go 10 seconds back to find Gandor, Kim, Sanchez, Aaron Mitt, Hong Suet, who all had some pretty good battles throughout the midfield, and then some of the drivers not having the best of luck throughout the race with curbs, other cars, or just unfortunate spins. Looking down the rest of the order, and then 4 drivers at the end didn't even make it to the end, unfortunately. But yeah, all rounding out a pretty good season.
I think so. I will just well, actually, have we got any interviews yet with Jazz? Not yet. So I will pose a question for you. I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, but in a moment I'll ask you what your favourite race of the season was. Whilst you're thinking, I wouldn't want to put you on the spot. I will just give another shout out to Macau-China Sim Racing Association, SimR Garage, Sim Racing Association, SG, and also Motorsports Singapore for all supporting this season of the championship. We've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed to broadcast it. I think the drivers have had a terrific time. You know, that's why they keep on coming back. So many of these guys I remember, and I think my first ever broadcast on Apex Racing TV, just come back season after season, because Sim Racers Asia do such an amazing job. So thanks to all of those supporters, and of course thanks to Sim Racers Asia for hosting a terrific championship. So now, of course, I will put you on the spot, Dane. What was your favourite race of the season?
I think round 8 at Okayama was really, really good. And that's not just because you weren't there. But yeah, the racing was actually really good. I was surprised. Okayama, for me, I've never been able to overtake there. It's always been a difficult circuit for me, but it's actually been it was a really good round. We had quite a lot of overtaking, and yeah, it was a brilliant battle. Not for the lead, because Gallon took the win there by quite some margin. But throughout the midfield, there was a lot of racing to be had at Okayama, and it was a really enjoyable round. So I think I have to give it to round 8 at Okayama, but pretty much every single round has been brilliant.
Yeah, I would say I agree, but I wasn't there. So, and you say it wasn't because I was there. Improve on your lying, Dane, is all I can say. We've got a few interviewees now. Everyone suddenly pops in. Half the grid are available to chat with. So I think the first guy we're going to have a chat with is going to be Nicholas Bernat, because he managed to win the final race of the season, his second race win of the season. Nicholas, congratulations! You must be really pleased with taking the win to end this season off. Nicholas, can you hear us? we may need to have a chat with someone else for a moment before maybe we'll try Nicholas later on. Of course, our race winner would be terrific to have a chat with him. However, I believe we also have an opportunity to chat with our provisional championship winner, Sebastian Teixeira, who joins us at the moment. Sebastian, our calculations aren't usually very good. We believe you have won the championship. Do you agree?
I will. I have no idea how I did that, though. I guess I was lucky about the two fast aliens, Sasha and Luis, didn't made all the races.
Yeah, they were absolutely amazing. But at the same time, of course, you still had to beat many very quick drivers. You had a very good battle, of course, today with Kevin Huang. Talk about your battle with him and also the contact that you two had.
Yeah, so for the context, I play in VR with the G2. And we had a great battle. At first, I was staying behind him to save fuel. At some point, I think he was making small mistakes. I think he was overheating his tire. So I thought if I can overtake him, I will do it. So he defended several times inside. I think after 2 laps, I managed to cross him in turn 1. So he was inside, and I go way wide outside, and then I cross him inside. So for the turn 2, the right-hander, I was on the outside. But so we go too wide there, but I couldn't see him. I have no idea where he was, and even if I could look to the right to see where he was, the turn was to the left, so I was concentrated to go there. And I watched the replay, and actually what I did is before going to the left-hander, I went a little bit to the right, and I went into contact with him, so totally my fault. I'm very sorry about that. It's really a shame because we had a great battle.
Absolutely. If you have, of course, won the championship, as we believe you have, you are going to get yourself a next level racing F-GT rig. Sounds like a pretty cool prize.
That's great. So now I have 2. No. Well, that's great. And thank you a lot for Next Level Racing for the prize. That's great. I was not expecting that at all when I started the championships this season. I was like, oh, it's my first season, so I will just learn. So yeah, really surprised.
Yeah, must have been pretty awesome, that one. So congratulations on that prize. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Sebastian?
Well, I will give a big shout out to Chen Wei, because he was when I was doing the Lotus 49 championship, he contacted me because he did a broadcast for one of the races, and he contacted me to ask me if I was interested, and I stopped doing the Lotus 49 and joined this one, and well, thanks to him, I now have a sim rig.
Awesome. That is.
And also just a big shout out to all the Singapore sim racing community. I hope after COVID I will be able to meet them.
Definitely. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Sebastian, and congratulations on your season.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Sebastian Teixeira there, we believe the winner for this season of the Sim Racers Asia GT3 iRacing series. Dane, got a few choices. Who would you like to have a chat with next?
I believe we've got Nicholas Fenat to have a chat with us. Obviously had some sort of issues when we tried to bring him in the first time. Let's see if he can hear us now. Nicholas, can you hear us? Oh, it doesn't seem that we we have the winner. So, Nicholas, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Sorry for the mic issue.
No worries at all. Well, Nicholas, thanks for joining us, and pretty good way to end out the season. Taking the second win of the season, must be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy. So of course things were a little bit easier without Lewis and Sachai on the race, but still it's a very good outcome for me.
Absolutely, and you had a little bit of work to do because, of course, you had to gap Kevin and Sebastian as well behind you. They were battling a little bit behind you, and it allowed you to make a gap. Were you worried that they were gonna catch you throughout the race because they were all pretty quick up there?
Well, actually, I had to take a gap because I knew I would lose some time at the pit stop because that's really not my thing. So I had to take at least 5 seconds gap to make it, and it kind of worked out. But actually, I was out of fuel on the last lap, so I actually 100 more meters on it. It was done for me. So I'm kind of lucky that it went through.
Yeah, we saw as you came across the line, you ran out of fuel there. Did you know that you were a bit tight on fuel before then, or were you a bit surprised?
I realized it 3 laps before the end. I don't know what happened with my calculator, but when I saw 12 liters remaining with 3 laps to go, I knew it would be very, very difficult. So I'm kind of lucky it worked.
Well, that doesn't sound like too much fuel to go 3 laps at COTA. Talk to me about your car choice for the season. The McLaren isn't one of the most popular GT3 cars. What made you pick the McLaren over, say, the Mercedes or the Audi?
Actually, I started the season with a Mercedes, and we are allowed to change once. So I switched, I think, at Road America because for I don't know whatever reason I could not get anything out of the Merc in Road America. So I switched, and I don't know. I like the McLaren because it's very agile and sometimes a bit snappy and easy to lose the rear. But on this track, it was, I think, very efficient, very efficient car.
Well, that's pretty interesting. I don't own the McLaren. I've never driven it, but I've heard it's one of the more difficult cars to drive. Well, Nicholas, thank you very much for joining us for a chat. Congratulations on the win. Before we let you go, is there anyone you would like to give a shout out to?
I'm always glad to be very close to Kevin, at least during quali, and I wish we had more chance to fight, but I think Sebastian wins the championship. He has been very, very consistent, and congratulations to him.
Well, Nicholas, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll speak very soon.
Thank you.
Good to hear from him, and that just about, I think, wraps everything up, Sam.
Yes, it does for this season of the Next Level Racing Sim Racers Asia iRacing GT3 series. It has been an absolute pleasure this to broadcast, as Sim Racers Asia always is. For more details on Sim Racers Asia, I believe there's a forum post in the private league and hosted section of the iRacing forums. Also, I believe there might be a link in the description below to the Sim Racers Asia website. So do try to sign up for the next season of this. It might be in GT3 cars, it might be a different orientation. You know, we've used F3s in the past, we've used the Radical in the past, we've had multi-class series, and we've had GTEs as well. So yeah, not sure what the next season of this will be like, but I'm sure the guys at Sim Racers Asia will come up with something absolutely terrific and put on another great season, just as we have seen over the course of the 10 rounds in this championship as well. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Dane Baird, and from Marco Barbonet, we are going to say goodbye for the final time this season, and we hope to see you back very soon.